Welcome to Beneath the Wing. Just like air passing over the wing of an aircraft provides lift, the people we meet can also give us lift in life by sharing their stories of strength and success, connecting us all. Beneath the Wing explores the stories of those connected with the Minnesota Air National Guard's 133rd Airlift Wing with a little humor and learning along the way. I'm your host, Wing Command Chief Mark Legvold. This is a special two-part series of Beneath the Wing, Voices from DC. We'll be sharing the stories of 4 of our Minnesota National Guard members who dropped everything and flew out to DC to support the peaceful transfer of power through the inauguration of President Biden. In between my interviews with my guests, you'll hear some other stories of the experience of being there for this huge undertaking. With the inauguration on the 20th of January, I showed up on the 15th in the evening as a part of the advance team. All Minnesota Army National Guard, 3 of them, and the sole blue suitor to speak the language of air. That's me. We landed late and went to the DC Armory to in-process together, meet the leadership of our part of the mission, and then we settled into a hotel someplace in Maryland outside the city. The DC Armory is a huge arena that had turned into a reception and briefing center, staging area, and food service distribution. Even the USO showed up with some creature comforts and snacks. The next morning, we'd return to learn a little bit more, eat lunch, and then start meeting the rest of the Minnesota folks getting flown in on the 133rd Airlift Wing's C-130s. All that mission was being accomplished at Andrews Air Force Base, just outside of DC. One member of our team was Major Tommy Miller. He was our operations officer, which meant he'd be leading the work of over 700 Minnesota Guardsmen and women who were to show up over the following days. This was his first joint operation of this scale, and to say he was up to the task was an understatement. Major Miller craves the structure of a military operation, and he was in charge of getting that structure put into place. We got a chance to reflect on the totality of what had been accomplished first on Beneath the Wing, Voices from DC. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to this edition of Beneath the Wing. It is Saturday, January 23rd of 2021. I am sitting in an aircraft hangar at Andrews Air Force Base, and I'm here with the rest of the 133rd and one special guest, and we are on our way back from supporting the inauguration of our new president. So sitting with me now is Major Tommy Miller of the Minnesota Army National Guard. And I have to say, Major, this is my first Army person we've had on the podcast.
This is my first Air Force podcast.
Try to be nice to me, okay?
You do the same, please.
Will do.
All right.
So Major Miller had a great opportunity in this. He came with me early to get things set up for the Minnesota crew that was coming. Minnesota brought 741 soldiers and airmen to this, and the guy sitting across from me was in charge of all the operations for them, and then suddenly realized that that number was going to get increased by about 1,000, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think we ended at 1576, somewhere in there.
And was this your first joint operation where you're working with Army and Air?
Yep, I have ridden in airplanes before, and that's about as far as it's gotten.
Well, and here we are.
And here we are.
An airman and a soldier sitting down and talking, which it's been good. What did you learn about working with the Air Force?
Boy, I learned a lot. Like, I honestly can't tell you how much I learned about working with the Air Force. And, like, I'm the type of guy that I'm going to probably take this next week and really think back about our time together and reflect on it and really hammer down my major learning points. I think one of the biggest things I learned that I think will stick with me forever, and I literally mean that, about the shared vernacular.
How we talk?
How we talk, yeah.
Uh-huh.
You know, I mean, I can have complete conversations with nothing but acronyms. And another Army guy will completely understand what I'm saying. And then, you know, we pitched an op order the first night.
An op order.
Yeah, yep, there we go.
Okay.
An operations order, or
Okay.
our plan.
It's basically a big, long piece of paper that tells people what to do.
Well, it's multiple. Like, every piece of paper is 8.5 by 11. So it's multiple pieces of paper.
So a lot of pieces of paper telling people what to do.
5 paragraphs. It's an Army standard. It's something that they beat into us in OCS, in all of our officer training, all of that kind of stuff. And I started to go, and I looked up, and there was a lieutenant colonel from the Illinois National Guard SF, security forces.
Yep.
And I looked up, and we met eyes when I was halfway through the scheme of, or the concept of the operations, which is a very important paragraph in the Army world.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it was blank. Like we locked eyes, and I knew that he was not picking up anything I was saying. I'm thinking, oh man. And then afterwards, you pulled me aside and very gently let me know that you guys don't speak the same as we do, and in a joint operation, like, we need to use a shared vernacular. And so I really tried to improve upon that in further correspondence.
Yeah, having common language and getting everybody to a point where at least we understand each other and we understand how to communicate was like first thing to learn. Like,
Yeah, right.
and sometimes that's just tough. But there's cultural things that are different between the Army and the Air.
Sure are.
And that's been fun for me, especially working in our operations center, just kind of managing the whole side of what our task force did. But enjoying the different cultures that the Army has and the Air Force has, and learning a little bit from each other.
Yeah.
So what's the biggest cultural gap that we have, do you think?
Well, so, and I won't say that this is blanket across the Army, but the group of soldiers that we brought down here to work in the C2 node, or in the command and control node, we are pedal to the metal, go. Like, there's no stop for us. Like, we are used to the 18, 20-hour days, go catch it in a couple hours, get back up, do it again, and just keep going. So it might not be the same way across the entire Army. In fact, I know it's not. But there was a gap in that, there was a couple times, and it wasn't anybody's fault. It wasn't bad on anybody, that we looked around and all of a sudden there were only 4 of us sitting in the command post, like pounding away on something. And the Air Force folks were off in their beds, and that's fine. But it's just it's some of those things that, like, we are go.
We do need our 12 hours of sleep a night in the Air Force.
Crew rest, right?
Beauty sleep,
it's important.
Crew rest, sure.
But also, it came down to the packing list. We got a packing list that I pulled off of the Joint Task Force DC's website, and on it said, minimize civilian clothes, like, don't reach out to civilians when you're here, like, you play soldier or airman while you're here, the end. And talking to you and some other airmen, like, you guys brought civilian clothes. Like, I brought sweatpants to wear in my hotel room.
I had 2 changes of civilian clothes with 2 different pair of civilian shoes. Just
2
in case.
pairs of shoes?
I did, yeah. You got to have loafers.
Sure.
And then maybe some tennis shoes if you're going to be doing a lot of walking and sightseeing where you're at.
Makes sense.
Doesn't it, though?
It does. It does.
Some people call them PT or running shoes, but they're just comfortable walking shoes for me.
Whatever floats your boat, Chief.
It works for me.
You bet. But no, there's some fun things, and again, like, it's nothing bad. Like, I have a very, very high level of respect for what you guys do, and the differences between what you guys do and what we do. I just think it's super cool when you come together like this and see these differences, and even poke fun at each other for it.
Yeah, it was great because the sergeant major and our commander and I got out to visit with a group from Illinois, and soldiers and airmen all in the park on kind of a standby crew, and they integrated. We know what the job is. It's in the op board. If we take the time to, yes, thank you. If they take time to read it, maybe they'll understand it. But they talk to each other and say, "Hey, what are we really supposed to be doing?" And there they were, and sitting in a civilian park with dogs chasing balls and kids walking around playing on equipment, and a bunch of soldiers and airmen hanging out in Washington, D.C. to keep that capital city safe. The sense from the civilian people was really very, very thankful.
Yeah.
Did you get that feeling?
I did. I've done This is my sixth state active duty thing I've done, I think, and every time it's the best mission I've ever done. Like deployed a couple times, gone to NTC, which is the National Training Center. It's a it's an all-out 14-day laser tag war. We bring our tanks and our armored vehicles and stuff like that. Super cool. Like
Sounds dirty.
very dirty. 21 days no shower in the Mojave Desert. It's fine.
Is there a hotel nearby?
No hotels. But like these type of missions are so much fun because the people are so grateful, and that's why we joined. That's why we're in the Guard as opposed to active duty, right? Because we want to serve our community, and this is actually like it's measurable, it's impactful.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, this has really been a great experience where it's really been a coming together of the entire country because every single state in the union and territory was a part of this big task force of the Guard coming together.
I mean, we've talked and I don't want to get political, but politicians have talked about unity. Like this is it. Mm-hmm. You know, they've had 22,000 guardsmen.
We had about 25,000.
25,000 guardsmen here from all 54 states and territories. Like this is unity. It's super cool to see. Like touching, cool to see.
Yeah, and the cool thing about the Guard is everybody puts on a uniform, and the political differences melt away into a common purpose that's shared by everybody that's here. And it was protecting the Constitution at its very finest in this mission. That's been great.
100%.
Is that why you volunteered to come out here? Or were you voluntold?
I was voluntold.
Okay.
But I wanted to come. This is a historic thing. And, you know, I don't know if it's messaged enough how amazing this is. That, you know, in 6 days, you know, all these people spun up and got ready to go and came down here to do their job. You know, this is the biggest thing the Guard maybe has ever done. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah.
And to be a part of it, like, is humbling. It's humbling.
So, being part of the Guard, we all left something behind.
Yep.
What did you leave behind to come out here?
I left my wife and then my 5-year-old and 3-year-old little boys.
They understand why Dad's doing what he's doing.
They think I'm on a mission. You know, they don't understand like exactly what I do, but they know Daddy's got a mission and he's got to go, and he'll be back in a little bit. So, the first day that I was gone, my wife told me that my son, you know, started getting upset at the end of the night, and she said, "David, what's wrong?" And he's like, "Well, we haven't made our chain." So you make little paper chains for every day that I'm gone, and then every night they rip one off. So I think there's 3 links left, so they're not expecting me home tomorrow.
Yeah, because we all left for this mission not knowing when we were going to come back. We were going to come back when the Capitol was safe.
Yep.
And not before.
Right.
Yeah. So 3 links left.
Yeah. So it'll be a fun little surprise when they wake up tomorrow morning.
And here we are sitting in the hangar getting ready to go.
Yeah. That's
great. Hey, how long have you been in the Guard?
17 years.
Okay. Cool. Is this what you expected when you joined the Guard?
No, I didn't really know what to expect. I joined the Guard out of spite for my parents.
Oh, delightful.
Yeah.
Great choice.
Yeah. It worked out for me. It worked out for me well. It was the best decision I've ever made. But yeah, it wasn't. I joined as an 11 Bravo light infantryman in the Army.
A light infantryman means you carry a weapon, a backpack.
I carry my weapon. I've got my whole life in my backpack. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to walk until I meet the enemy, and then I'm going to kill the enemy. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do something in the Guard that I couldn't do in the civilian world.
And now what do you do for the Guard?
And now I'm the International Affairs Officer.
It's quite a leap, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's quite a title.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's super cool, though. I mean, like I said, I love doing state active duty stuff. It's so cool to see fellow Americans, you know, so appreciative. You know, we're told thanks for our service, stuff like that, and everyone thinks of us going to Iraq or Afghanistan and something like that. But when we show up in their backyard, taking care of a dike for a flood, or, you know, a forest fire, or civil unrest, something like this, like, you see broken hearts,
Mm-hmm.
and we're there to help mend them together and hold them up, and really be the backbone of our community. And it's touching, man. It really is.
It's a great part of what we do in the Guard, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's fantastic. So we're going to do a lot of these. We're going to get voices of a lot of the different airmen that were on the mission with us for this.
Yeah.
Some of them are lining up and getting ready to get on the first planes. But we're going to yank a couple of them out of line and just ask them about their experience out here too. So, hey, thanks for running a great operation. I think it's going to be a good night's sleep when we get home.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you had a lot on your shoulders, and thanks for leading both soldiers and airmen well on this one.
Hey, and thank you for the teaching and the mentoring. So I'm really glad that I got to meet you on this trip.
Awesome. It's been my pleasure.
Yeah.
Major Tommy Miller of the Minnesota Army National Guard was our ops officer, and we'll be right back. I'll have a couple other airmen to share their experiences. As you heard, so much got accomplished by so many. Reflecting on the contributions of some of our 133rd members is Tech Sergeant Dan Kennedy. He got presented with some great opportunities to lead early on, and using his civilian skill sets helped to organize and improve how we did things. He highlights one of the key characteristics of the Guard, and that's our members' diverse skills that they bring to the table. It helps us to solve problems collaboratively and constantly look to try and make things better. More importantly, he talks about one of the greatest things we do in the military, and that's taking an oath to protect and defend the Constitution, and taking that oath seriously. The director of the Army National Guard, Minnesota's former Adjutant General John Jensen, stopped by our operations center after the inauguration was completed, and he spoke to us briefly about how directly we were doing just that, protecting the Constitution. He even gave Sergeant Kennedy a coin, which is a military special tradition of giving a personal token of thanks for a job well done or a mission accomplished. Dan will also talk a little bit about the day-to-day parts of his work during the mission and give us a good picture of his service and both his and his family's sacrifice to fulfill our oath. All right, I'm sitting here with Technical Sergeant Dan Kennedy. He's out of our logistics squadron, a fuels guy, and he left his civilian occupation to join us here in D.C. to do the inaugural support. So thanks for joining on Beneath the Wing.
Thanks, Chief.
Yeah. So why'd you volunteer to come out here?
Well, I think when the initial push came out, I put all the political thoughts and all of that stuff aside and really want to be able to bring to the table a little bit of humility and a positive attitude can go a long way. That was the big driving force for coming out here for me.
Sure. What does it take for a guardsman to, you mentioned put aside politics. We all bring our own beliefs to the table when we wake up in the morning, but putting together this big of a group of people from around the country, they all have different political beliefs. Is that a struggle for us when we put a uniform on to do that?
I know that there are people that it is a struggle for. Me personally, I don't have an issue. Setting things aside, I took an oath that part of that contract that we all signed says that despite however deep your beliefs are, we're all on the same team and protecting the Constitution.
Yeah. And in all the years that I've served, this is probably the most direct support and defend the Constitution that I've ever done. Did it feel that way for you?
Absolutely. I've been on a couple overseas deployments in the Middle East and a couple TDYs and DFTs and things like that. And throughout all of those things, I've felt pride in putting on the uniform over the years. But this has been the most impactful and really I think one highlight to this deployment for me, being all volunteered. Everybody that came out here with us put their hand up and said that they wanted to go. I think that the spirits and the morale of the group, knowing that we all volunteered, nobody was told they had to come out here, just really kept spirits high. Mm-hmm. I think it was a very unique opportunity. We're part of making history. I'm very, very glad that nothing negative happened while we were here. And it was good to be around and frankly, to be bored for a couple of days and make sure that safety and peace was preserved. It's an interesting way to look at DC with the barriers and fencing and things like that. And I had a unique opportunity to put a fair bit of windshield time on moving people and supplies and food around the city on the morning of the inauguration. And I don't know if it's all attributed to the show of force that we had here, but I did not see anything that made me feel unsafe or anything like that. It was a very calm day in DC. Even traffic was pretty calm and things like that.
They had the inner part of the city pretty well blocked off, didn't they?
They certainly did. I was moving a little bit around the inner part of the city, and then out as far as Alexandria and FedEx Field was where a lot of our buses were staged. We had bus drivers that were running out of hours on their on their legal time that they could drive. So we got them out rather than losing buses and putting people off of those. Being able to keep warm and things like that. It was not extraordinarily warm out. So it was a nice thing for us to have not only a place to sit, but with our capacity during this event, we were a quick response force. If something were to happen in or around the mall area, had to be able to get moved in at a moment's notice. So having that transportation was important for our mission.
Yeah. Your mission, I mean, you did a lot of logistical and transport stuff, but really that surge force, we had a lot of airmen and soldiers that were hanging out in the community waiting to just get called. And you were one of those, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we all have memories and we save memories in different ways. And what's a picture in your mind that you're going to take away from that part of it, just kind of waiting around?
We had a pretty unique position. We were real close to the Washington Monument. So, within eyeshot of that, probably only a couple blocks away, was our staging point or our rally point. So we had a nice view of a lot of the events of the day. When the motorcades were going by, Secret Service beefed us up, our presence along the fence lines and things like that. We didn't have a lot of interaction with the public. Press was allowed in the area that we were, but they were pretty few and far between, being as far as we were from the actual Capitol. I think, there was a little bit of press presence, a very small amount of people out, walking their dogs or on a bicycle or something like that. A lot less than I've heard from other rally points or other areas that were out. But, just a picture of being able to look out. I've been to DC several times in the past, and looking out at the mall being completely empty. Nobody moving around, no activity, no joggers or walkers or school groups or anything out there. Looking through fence lines to see it was very interesting to me. Something that, like I said, I've been to the DC area several times over the years and done the whirlwind tours of the Smithsonian's and the mall and things like that. And, looking past barriers and concertina wire and things like that was a little bit eerie feeling at times. We came into it and I was working with a group of security forces defenders that a few of them I know pretty well from our state active duty time over the summer, and coming in with the unique perspective that this is going to go one of two ways. Either we're going to be really bored, or there's a possibility that's going to go really bad. And I'm, like I said earlier, I'm glad that we were bored compared to the alternative. It was certainly interesting. The boredom aspect doesn't do well with my personality. So at the opportunity to jump on some of those special taskings of moving things around and helping coordinate the logistics of moving 100 or 200 people and getting food to them and things like that when we were on station for 12 to 16 hours a day, for the main inauguration day was a good opportunity for me to keep busy and make sure to spread a little cheer make sure that the morale stayed high. Having a decent meal instead of eating MREs was a good option for everybody.
Yeah, I think every American was very, very glad that we had 25,000 soldiers and airmen that were bored on Inauguration Day, and that's great.
Absolutely.
We raise our right hand, we take an oath, and sometimes that means we take off and go someplace really quick. How much time did you have to prepare to come out here?
The days have blended together a little bit for me at this point, but I think we got the ad hoc notification on Thursday, and I was at that point pretty well convinced that I was interested in going. By the time I got confirmation that was on the list, that was probably mid to late day Friday. And like I said earlier, with the state active duty and things like that, I've kind of had my go bag ready, so to speak. Have a couple uniforms and things all sitting in the corner, ready to go. So it didn't take a lot of time. There were some delays, and the logistics of getting 25,000 people out here obviously resulted in a couple things getting pushed back. But finding out Friday, and then we were wheels up on Monday and on our way out here.
It's quite a quick turn. What did you leave behind? You have a civilian job. What else did you leave behind to take this on?
Sure. I've got a civilian job. I've got, employees that count on me to keep things going. So that was a little interesting, between the management level above me and my subordinates below me, getting them at least, kind of clued in on what was to come this week and getting those things ready. Outside of that, my family, I've got a wife and 2 kids. Going into it, my daughter is 12 years old, and over the summer she was, fairly concerned for my safety and things like that.
During our state active duty.
Doing our state active duty time, worried about things that I think probably any 12-year-old girl might be going through some emotional times of their life and things like that. So, she took it pretty hard at that time. So we kept things pretty mild, as far as I had a work trip planned that I canceled to come out here. And so we kind of just originally went with the guys that I was still just going to go on a work trip, and that was going to be that. Eventually I don't like to hide things from my family, and kind of let it out that I was going and that we were going to make sure things stayed safe and that we were all going to be well protected and things. So I think, there's plenty of people, no shortage of people worrying about what could have happened.
Yeah.
I think that has an impact on family and friends. Had a lot of people reaching out. It's kind of a difficult aspect to bring into that, is the OPSEC of us being in a location, doing what we said to do and not being able to say, anything much more than, yes, I'm here, maybe in a text message, but other than that, keeping things pretty quiet and low on what our mission is and all of those things.
Good reason for that, and most people do understand, but it's tough to leave that stuff behind, and people leave their spouses, they leave their kids, they leave their jobs, and it's tough to balance all that. And then there's the catch-up when we get home, right?
Absolutely.
Always is. And hopefully we don't have to come out here and do this type of thing again in this mass.
I'm hoping so.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that this is not going to be a normal thing.
No.
That's I've with the pandemic and with state active duty and looking at the potential for more incidents around the time of trials and things like that are coming up for us in our state. I look at that as kind of a whole lot of new normals, and I hope that this is one that does not become a new normal.
Yeah.
Wearing a mask kind of pales in comparison to having to stand armed on a corner to protect our capital of the United States.
Yeah.
I think that new normal I can get over a little bit more easily than potentially having to come out here on a regular basis to do this.
Agreed. So how long have you been in the National Guard?
I have been with the 133rd Airlift Wing at a traditional capacity for 15 years.
15 years.
Going on 15 years, almost.
It'll
be 15 years in May.
How about that? Goes by fast, doesn't it?
It does.
Did you come straight out of high school?
I did 1 year of college,
Okay.
and then came in after that. Succumbed to the family business.
Yep. I understand. I served with your dad, which this is kind of fun to sit down across from you and get your insights on all of this.
Absolutely.
Is this
Big
what you?
shoes to fill for
Oh,
me.
you're doing just fine. Is this what you expected when you joined the Guard?
I didn't really know what to expect. When I first joined the Guard after a year of college and, kind of needing a little something to, the financial benefits were certainly a part of it at that time. At that time in the early 2000s, the things going on in the Middle East were the real deal. There were people over there making the ultimate sacrifice in my college years. And that whether that was with our unit or with our state, there was a flurry of activity. So I was a little bit hesitant. Some of that stuff, kept me, I think, probably right after high school, kept me from raising my hand right off the bat there. But, seeking a little something more in life and, having a kind of the patriotic duty. And like I said earlier, the family business my dad was in, he's an immigrant and served over 25 years in the National Guard. And on my mom's side, my grandpa and both uncles were in and served for a long time, so it was a big thing for me, and I drug my feet a little bit, but decided it was the right thing for me.
And it's a good place to be. Isn't
Absolutely.
It? Yeah, I'm sitting here in an aircraft hangar at Andrews Air Force Base, and Tech Sergeant Dan Kennedy and I have been reflecting a little bit on our weeks-long experience out here protecting the nation's capital. Hey, thanks for taking a little bit of time and giving us your thoughts on this. We really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Chief. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I hope you've enjoyed the first in our two-part series of Beneath the Wing, Voices from DC. In part 2, you'll hear from 2 of our younger members of the wing and get their perspective on the mission we just accomplished.